My name is Henry Babichenko, and I'm owner of a Stomadent Dental Laboratory. We are full service dental lab, but in this area, majority of the other labs see us as an experts in removable prosthesis. We've been in digital industry for already 15 years. That's when we start doing some of them digital frameworks and so on. But today, even though I have maybe right here my title as a digital dentures, but we're gonna talk about how to increase or double your profit when it comes to removable prosthesis. My goal is to show when doctors get into digital dentistry, how they can increase their profit by 100%. Of course, it takes time to master how to be good at digital dentistry. But today I'm going to share few methods and few tips that should work for everyone. I've consulted many dental offices and other dental professionals, and when we suggest them to take those steps, they did increase their profit by 100%. And when I'm talking about increasing profit by 100%, of course, it will minimize the chairside time. If it takes at least 4 appointments to get a conventional denture, well, you have to do the impression, establish VD, then do a try-in, and then process if everything goes right. We're going to give you some information on how to do a good dentures in actually just the 2 appointments. Let's say a patient came to you and he or she has an existing dentures. There is no reason to start a completely new impressions. You actually will use an existing dentures to take a digital impression or conventional impression, and then we're going to transfer into a digital format. So what you do in this workflow, you take an upper, like a reline impression. You take a lower reline impression. Then you just take a blue mousse bite. That's an example right here. You take an upper impression. When you take an upper impression, the way I suggest is that you leave the lower denture in a patient mouth. You take an upper impression out, just because you cannot do perforation, so the impression cannot adhere. You would use a tray adhesive. Then for your upper impression, you want to use a light body or even extra light body impression system, because what you want to do, you want to make sure that the impression just squeeze out from the side borders and that you're not changing patient's vertical dimension or bite. So you use a extra light body or light body for the upper impression. Then when the upper denture is in, then you take a lower denture out, you apply the denture adhesive, not a denture adhesive, but a tray adhesive to a base, and then you would use a heavy body impression. So you just place the heavy body impression into intaglio surface, place into patient mouth, and you want to ask patient to close down or bite into it. You want to make sure that patient is in the same position when it comes to the vertical dimension. And when you verify that, then you take a blue mousse bite. Why this method is one of the best methods? Number one, because now when you're using an existing denture as almost like a custom tray, it will give you a perfect functional impression. So the impressions that you are able to get, it's actually better than even using a conventional tray. Second of all, is that patient already accustomed to their existing dentures. Fear of many patients is that they think when they're going to get a new denture, it's going to be so different. They remember how long it took them to get used to the new dentures when they got their existing ones. And some of them would tell you, well, that's the only reason why they never came back to do a replacement set. When you're gonna make a new dentures using the existing dentures that patient have, they will feel a lot more comfortable. Aesthetically, there is not too big of a change. You can just improve on it. And they will love you for it. This is an extremely important workflow if a patient already have an existing dentures. Doesn't matter if they like them or not, you still would use them because then you can improve or correct what needs to be corrected. But you do take an upper like reline impression, lower reline impression, you take a bite. Now, in a first appointment, practically in 10 minutes, you were able to get upper lower functional impression, plus you were able to get patient bite, you have a smile line, you have a midline, you have a vertical dimension. Now you can actually go ahead and scan this denture. If a patient came to with an existing dentures, they wanted those dentures back. So most likely in your office, you already have an oral scanner, or if you don't, that's where we can provide you with an oral scanner. You can lease from us. But let's say you have the oral scanner or you got the oral scanner from us, then you have like a triple tray impression right here. Then you just grab your scanner, you scan your upper integral surface, lower, then you scan a bite, you send this to a lab, and lab can start designing denture. Some offices, they would tell me, well, they don't have a lot or enough practice using an oral scanner to scan those dentures. Then I would advise to buy a desktop lab scanner. It's so much easier to actually scan like a triple tray impression. And you don't have to buy a really expensive one. This is a Shining 3D. This is a China-made scanner, but extremely popular here in the United States. It costs, I would say, about $5,000 or $5,000 to $7,000. It will scan a denture impression extremely well. Very simple. You just scan the upper impression, scan the lower impression. It automatically scans the bite in 2 steps. Practically, it's done. Lab has right now everything necessary to go ahead and design a denture. So when a lab starts designing dentures, they see where the existing teeth were on the denture that patient had. So now they can design the way it is, or you can actually ask a lab, I want maybe anterior teeth to be 1 millimeter longer. If possible, maybe open a bite by 2 millimeters because I want patient open vertically. Then they go ahead, design. Next step, they can actually process those dentures. Or if you still not sure and want to do a try-in, you can do a try-in. But a lot of times you can go ahead and process dentures. If the bite was incorrect for some reason, and we need to remake something, when it comes to a printed denture, we'll just use that existing new denture as a try-in, and then retake a bite, rescan, and we pretty much adjust the bite and send you another denture. And that way, in 2 or maybe at most 3 appointments, you have a custom-made, a premium denture. They can look really nice. This was the scenario how you can use a digital technology to increase your profit when it comes to a full dentures. But let's say a patient came to you and they don't have an existing dentures, but it's a dentureless patient. If it's a dentureless patient, don't have an existing dentures, I mean, yeah, you will have to use a conventional impression system. So I would recommend those Dr. Massa trays. They're very convenient. You never have to do a custom tray. You just use this tray. If you put under warm water or use your torch, you can actually modify some of them, that tray, in any way you want it. And then when I take an impression, I would suggest use an extra heavy body impression system, and you place that impression system around the flanges of a tray or borders of a tray and on a back pallet. And you create like a custom tray right now. You place the tray in with that impression, pull on the patient muscles, lips, and cheeks, so that way you would do a functional impression or border molding. And the next step, you just apply a light body impression system. It gives you a perfect impression. No need for custom tray. Next step, you would actually need some bite rims. There is a way how you can put some wax in between the jaws and use an oral scanner to register, but you have to master that technique. So most of the offices will request the bite rims. Bite rims and then trying and process. If you do have to use a bite rim, couple tips. I would always suggest that you would remove the front portion of the wax and in a retromolar pad, remove that wax. You want to make sure that when patient close down, they just close on almost like a posterior teeth, that they don't feel like they have front teeth to bite, because when they're biting, that's when they're moving jaw forward. But when they're just closing down on back teeth, that's when the jaw relaxes, goes into retrusive, and patient will give you a right bite in this case. I also would suggest when you remove, then you see the front portion of a wax and you see patient already in good occlusion, then you would warm up the lower wax rim, make sure the wax is soft enough where patient, when they close down, the both sides, it will push the wax and the both sides will hit at the same time evenly, and blue mousse bite registration, and pretty much you got the bite. When you have to use wax rims to establish information, that's when I would suggest to spend some time. You would want to establish the midline, you want to establish smile line, and eye teeth or canine marks. The reason why, if you got good information and provided a proper vertical dimension in a centric relationship, after that, we can go ahead and process your denture. Here is just, for example, taking a bite. But if you're not sure and want to do a trine on digital trines, you can see they're slightly different. You want to know how to adjust them or modify them. I would suggest that practically you don't mark anything on those trines, because when you start marking, it's harder to transfer that information into the computer. So it's best that you would write a description on a lap slip and say, well, change this or that. But if your bite is incorrect, it's extremely important to take a new bite that you would grind the posterior teeth at least 2 millimeters. You want to actually grind those posterior teeth to a central groove, when the depth of a central groove, or even beyond. Because if you did not grind the posterior teeth on a lower trine and you took a new bite, you raise in patient vertically, denture is going to be too big. So if the bite is incorrect, you want to grind the posterior teeth. You want to verify that the interior teeth of upper and lower jaw in proper vertical dimension. That's when you retake the blue mousse bite, and that information transferred into the design. And next step, it's a process. But if you feel like you did got a good bite, you marked all the necessary landmarks, we can go ahead and process and finish. Because when it comes to a digital denture, if something went wrong and we have to remake, it's not starting all over like it's in a conventional dentures. It's practically just new bite, transfer this information into the new design, and next step, you receive your Again, new denture with a new bite. Let's say when you took the impression, and if you have good skills to use an oral scanner, you can actually take nowadays a good digital impression on the dentureless patients. But let's say you took the impression and the impression was not satisfactory. I would recommend not to bother and retaking the impression. Just go ahead, request the bite rims, and what's going to happen. And the next step, when you're going to receive a bite rim, when you're going to establish vertical dimension, do all the landmarks, then you will do like a reline impression inside of a bite rims. And then when it comes to the lab, or you can scan this right now impression, those in a bite rims, and now we have a good vertical dimension and nice impressions, and we can go ahead and finish your dentures. So right here, I'm just showing that if you don't have good impression, that's no problem. Don't bother about it. You can correct that later in a bite rim step. Right here, we're just showing, so you receive the bite rim, you take the impression, and pretty much after that, we can go ahead, either do a try-in for you or go into the process. Immediate dentures. When it comes to an oral scanner and immediate dentures, I think this is the best thing that happened for many dental practices. Why is that so? Well, it will save you a lot of money, just because in every step, it's an impression, and next step, it's process and finish. Denture is going to fit better, bite is going to be more precise. It's going to save you some material and impressions, and it gives us much better idea how to set teeth customly. You would take an oral scanner impression. As you can see right now, this is the digital impression. One side in occlusion and the other side is not, you still can register a bite. If it would be a conventional digital dentures, then you would have to have a bite rims. But in this case, I have many offices who do most of the extraction and would just leave one tooth on each jaw where it can be an occlusion, and they take digital impression and they use that one tooth on each jaw to establish patient's bite. And then we receive upper and lower impression articulated. And pretty much we can start setting teeth and go into the process and finish. You all know that when you use a bite rims, just because patients have this extra material and trays in their mouth, a lot of times when they try to close, they don't know how to close. They feel like they need to find the bite. Where's my proper bite? That's when they start shifting their jaw right or left or forward. And but when you took the digital impression and patient have couple teeth in occlusion, it always goes into the pretty much right occlusion, and then you just scan that occlusion. That's it. When we receive a digital impressions for immediate dentures, it does simplify our job as well. And I'll explain to you why. Well, right here, we digitally remove the upper teeth. Like this is an immediate upper denture. So digitally, we removed patient existing teeth. Then what I can do right now, go ahead and do some undercut blackout. I also can do some relief material, like in this case, a 0.5 millimeter of relief material over those canine eminence. That's where majority of the sore spots are. And so knowing that, a technician will go ahead and do some relief material. The next step, when we set the teeth, we can go back and forth and we still can see where the existing teeth were, and we can copy and improve an existing dentition. Now, patient gonna get their immediate dentures that and improve over their natural teeth, but still very custom and something similar to what they already got used to. When it comes to your chairside time, just because we were able to black out some undercuts, do some relief material over the eminence or maybe a tori. Now, when you place that denture, there's practically no adjustments. So the technology will help you to have a better fitting denture, especially immediate dentures. There is no question about it. When you try it, you will love this. So right here, just we're trying to show that we can zoom out and zoom in the natural teeth and the teeth that we set in a new denture teeth. That way we can copy and customize the setting of this patient immediate dentures. I do quickly want to talk about the manufacturing methods for the digital dentures. Like I said, in our lab, we do all methods. We still do a lot of the conventional dentures. Our actual conventional removable department, it's still the largest because many doctors, they gradually moving into digital, recognizing the advantages. Another big advantage while I'm talking about digital dentures, I want to mention is that if patient do lost their denture, you can just give us a call and say, hey, can you get me a denture? Patient lost their denture, and we pretty much either can mail or print that denture, and next day a patient have a denture. When it comes to a conventional way of doing that, it's starting all over. Another advantage using a digital immediate dentures is that, let's say a patient already liked that immediate denture, they got used to it. They use that immediate denture as a temporary denture or transitional denture. Then what you can do, you can ask patient, okay, are you satisfied the placement of a teeth? Do you like your immediate denture? They will tell you, yeah, aesthetically, maybe I do. Then what you do, you just take the real-line impression and then you scan this denture with a new impression inside. Now in a lab, they can go ahead, upgrade that impression. In most cases, if due to the gum swelling, if they need to reduce some of the thickness and maybe increase the size of a tooth entirely, they can do that, and pretty much after that, finishing that denture. And now from the transitional denture, you got into the final denture within one step, and patient gonna love that denture because they're already accustomed to their previous denture that you made a temporary denture, and they will appreciate that. When it comes to manufacturing methods of digital dentures, I do want to mention that a digital, especially mill denture, can and should fit better than the conventional denture. We use some of the best systems when it comes to the conventional dentures. We use an IvaCap system. It's a really nice system. But when you inject the acrylic into the mold, and when the acrylic is polymerizing, we all know that there is 3 to 5% shrinkage to that material. That's why we need to pose them to compensate for that. When you mill denture, you mill from exactly same acrylic, but it comes in a pack in very dense state of the acrylic. You mill a denture, there is a 0% shrinkage. So therefore, that denture should fit better. And since I did mention the IvaCap, Ivaclar system, that's what we use for our conventional dentures. Right now, we also do the iVotion, Ivaclar mill dentures, and I think they fit and look extremely well. the reason iVotion is the best fitting denture because it mill as a monolithic denture, the teeth and the base from a same pot. So therefore, there is no change to that occlusion during the process. And that denture fits so well. I would actually have some practitioners and doctor would tell me, hey, with this iVotion, somehow I got suction on a lower denture. Maybe just because there is no shrinkage to that material at all when it's milled, that denture. And there's no change to the occlusion to that bite because there is no need for process. There is no need to glue the teeth. It fits so precise, you will be amazed. I would say that a milled denture from a regular acrylic PMMA probably would be the best option and would be a premium denture. But let's say that you want a more of a, just like a basic denture, and the question is how good are the printed dentures? Right now, they're, I would say, pretty good. Especially not now we got some of the resins from the Lucitan. Then there is Ivoclar making the iVotion printed dentures. Then Vivaden making their resin for printed dentures. And those resins are considered to be and are called as a high impact acrylic resins. They're extremely strong. They will fit well. But you still have to glue the teeth. And I think just because you still have to assemble, that's when you might have to adjust your bite slightly. At the same time, we are waiting for the monolithic printed denture by 3D System. And I've checked those dentures while I was in Chicago show, and I was amazed. Number one, the strength of those denture. It's almost stronger than an acrylic denture. Plus, the aesthetics of that denture are so great. I was shocked as well. And I showed to my technicians, those who do conventional dentures, and they were shocked as well how well it looks. I'm not sure how the 3D system was able to make it, but you can see a translucent, see in the tooth. Then base just look really nice with all the stippling and all the root eminence and everything just looks great. So what I'm trying to say, maybe soon the printed denture, the quality of it would be as good as the mill denture at this time. But for now, we still use the very good materials. That would be the Lucitan and iVotion and some other materials that we use. I would say the premium denture would be a mill denture. For more basic, it would be a printed denture. We're going to skip that because we're talking about how to increase your profit. So I gave you already two workflows. Workflow number one, it's use the existing denture to take impression. Then workflow for immediate denture, use an oral scanner to take a digital impression, take a bite, goes to the lab, and it goes into the process and finish. Next, when it comes to implants or overdentures, right now you can do overdenture, you can do a snap-on, some call them dentures. I call them bridges because right now we can make a snap-on all-on-6 or all-on-4, pretty much the same size that is screwed in all-on-4 denture. The way you do a snap-on all-on-4 denture and impression is that, let's say if you have 4 locators, I would suggest in this case, you either can take a digital impression or you take conventional impression. If you do take a conventional impression, I would suggest before taking the impression, you place the housings into the abutments. And then you just do a pickup impression. Sometimes those housings will be left on the abutments. You would remove those abutments. You would place them back into the impression, or we can place back in a lab. Then we would place the impression analogs like you see right now. We would pour the impression and we have exactly same replica, what's going on in the patient mouth. And then we can go ahead and scan all this information and start making either digital denture or the conventional. If you would use an oral scanner to take an impression, then I would suggest at that case, you don't place the housings. You just take the oral scanner impression over the abutments. Just because in a lab, when we'll receive that impression, we would print the model, we place the housings back onto the abutments, and then we would process those housings right at the lab. So that's how you would do the overdenture or all on 4, all on 6 clip-on. So pretty much you would have to go through the bite trim if you want to try and then process. When it comes to metal reinforcement, you want to have a metal reinforcement if you want to have more like a clip-on bridges, removable bridges. Just because there is not too much of a extension of the acrylic, it's nice and thin, so we do suggest that we would have a metal reinforcement. The way we would suggest is that you would do metal reinforcement and housings part of that metal reinforcement. So that way, when you receive that metal reinforcement and housings already part of that metal reinforcement, you can go ahead and try this in, make sure it clips fine. Then you can go ahead and trying over it, make sure vertically everything looks good. And then after that, we would process everything in the lab. I do want to briefly talk about partials, just because I also believe that oral scanner or the digital equipment, nowadays, they improve the fit of the partials. They also minimize the chairside time. Why is that so? Well, it's because in this case, you can see that patient have only a couple teeth on each side. If we would need to make a partial in this case, we will need a bite trim in order for us to articulate those two jaws properly. But when it comes digital impression, you go ahead, take a digital impression, you register patient's bite. Next step we would, and I would suggest, is that in a lab, doesn't matter what kind of partial it is, it's a flexible partial, metal partial, we would actually go all the way to process. There is no reason to start trying those metal frameworks. Nowadays, a metal framework should fit right on from the first time without any adjustments. Why is that so? The way we construct the metal partials is that we would design that metal partial. So we scan the model, we design on it, and it goes into printing from chrome and cobalt or titanium. There is no distortion at all. So that's why I would suggest, and nowadays that's how most of our offices do, when we receive this information impression from you, plus both jaws in occlusion, then we go ahead, construct the metal framework. We can construct nowadays the titanium framework. Why would you use titanium instead of a chrome and cobalt in some cases? It's 3 to 4 times lighter than the chrome and cobalt. Patient feels like they don't have any metal in their mouth. And then we would set the teeth, either it's chrome and cobalt or titanium, and it goes into process and finish. So that will really minimize your chairside time. But we also offer some other options. Most of you probably heard of a flexible partial. So Valplus, it's not a substitute for the metal partial. But the Acida resin partial, it is a substitute for a metal partial. You treat that partial exactly same as a metal partial. Number one, the material is extremely strong. We've been using those partials for close to 20 years. Before, we would use an injection method. You inject the beads and make a framework from the acetal instead from a metal. Nowadays, you actually mill from a puck. It's even more precise. We would mill the frame. It's exactly like a metal frame. It's just when it comes to undercuts, we can utilize a slightly deeper undercuts. Therefore, the class will be closer to the gingiva, so it's going to be aesthetically more pleasing. We also can go ahead and mill that frame from a different shade, a tube shades, plus the clear shade. Clear shade looks fantastic. And so after that, we would set teeth into the acrylic or set teeth in a wax and then process finish into the acrylic. You can reline partial in the same manner as a metal partial. So this partial you can use in some of the immediate cases. But when it comes to flexible like a Valpas partial, digital equipments really improve the quality of those partials as well. And let's see, this is an acrylic partial. I'll just briefly show you why the digital method will improve the quality of any kind partial. In case we're doing the acrylic partial, in this case, because it's designed digitally, it's a surveyed partial. Because digitally, I can do the blackout undercuts just in a minute. I can remove some of the material, some of the wax of the undercuts to the desired position and start setting those teeth. But when I set teeth digitally, I also can modify my mold to make sure that it fills all the spaces nice and perfectly. And it looks fantastic. It fits great, because if I would do this acrylic partial conventionally, which is we still do, and there's a lot of undercuts, there is a lot of trimming and grinding. When it comes digitally, it's all done in a design. It comes to you, just place this partial in. Sometimes in those partials, we don't need the wire clasp, even though we can place the wire clasp into digital partial. But the reason we don't need a wire clasp, because I can remove the undercut material, wax material, enough where I can use the interproximal space for the retention. And this partial can fit without any metal wire clasping. But in this case, we're comparing the conventional with digital. Flexible partial, in this case, I show Valplast or TCS or some other 3D flexible partials. Just because it's not a tooth-borne partial, but it's a gingiva-borne partial. So what happens is that a lot of times when you receive that partial and it starts settling down into the patient mouth, patient will receive a lot of sore spots on the buccal side of the ridge. It will happen on every partial. So it's extremely important, if you do that conventionally, to do the refractory model. The way you do refractory model is that you would do a relief material of a 0.5 millimeter of a wax onto the buccal side of a ridge. Then you would have to duplicate that model to make a refractory model, and you have to make the flexible partial on a refractory model. So there is a small clearance on the buccal side of a ridge. So that way, when you place the flexible partial, and after a week or two, when the partial settles down, then it will hit just right. When it comes to digitally design those partials nowadays, we virtually in a computer can do that relief material 0.5 millimeter, extremely precise. If there is a tori or like a root eminence that's very prominent, and I like to add a little bit more material, manually it's much, much harder. Digitally, I can adjust in that area. Instead of maybe 0.5 millimeter, I would do 0.8. And so that way I can black out or do relief in areas where I need to do more of that relief material. And nowadays, the printed flexible partials, I can show you one of the sample of printed flexible base. It's just amazing. Just a moment. Right here, I have actually those printed flexible partial. Amazing. Those partials already been tried clinically. Amazing strength, flexibility, aesthetics. I mean, we do a lot of Alplas and TCS partials. We've been doing them for 20 years. I was not sure about those 3D printed partials at first, but when we received that system in here, just amazing. Clinicians extremely happy with them. They actually look better. They do fit better just because they're done digitally. Just an amazing material. If you try those partials from us, you will love it. No question about it. I had some patients told me that it fits better than the Valplast, even though my conventional manager who responsible doing Valplast, he doesn't like me to say that, but it is amazing. Right here, we're just showing that flexible partial. You can see how translucent it is, and it will pick up the tone of a patient tissue in a mouth. It looks so aesthetically pleasing. Patients really love them. Again, just because we can do the blackout of any of this buccal ridge, the root eminence, any tori's, this will fit just fantastically. If you use from us a conventional partials like a Valplast, well, we do them. We're not limited only to digital. So I tell you the way it is, because for us, it doesn't matter if you send to the conventional department or digital department. But in this lecture, in this class, I'm presenting to you how you can increase your profit or double your profit. And that's how you can do that. And we've talked about using conventional dentures to take the functional impression, and pretty much in the next step, the denture can be processed. We've talked about immediate dentures, how in a first appointment, you will be able to take the impression, you take a bite, goes to the lab, no bite trim necessary, it goes into the process. And just because we can do some applied relief material, we can black out any undercuts, the denture will fit much better. Plus, we can set the teeth, knowing where the existing dentition was. When it comes to conventional, we do them even though we see where the position of a patient existing teeth were, but as soon as you took away that tooth and you place a denture tooth, that's it. Hopefully it's in the right place. And when you start adjusting, that's when you will lose the maybe position of that natural dentition where the natural dentition was. When it comes to digital, you just can scroll back and forth and it will show you by zooming in and zooming out the natural dentition and verify to the dentition that you set in a new immediate denture. Then we talk about partials. Partials, again, where you actually use your oral scanner, you take the impression, even if patient one tooth on each side in occlusion, you're already able to register bite. You provide this bite to us. Next step, doesn't matter if it's a metal partial, acetal partial, flexible partial, it goes into the process. If you need a trine, we can do that. But a lot of times on partials, when you start doing those trines, that's when unconventional method, that's when the model gets scratched, and in the end result, there is a lot more adjustments. When it comes to digital or even conventional, when you're able to provide bite and everything, and it goes into the process right away, there is no distortion to the master cast, and it goes into the process, things will fit much better. This is pretty much the end of the lecture. But I do want to mention also at the end is that we are able, if you don't have the oral scanner, we are able to provide a free scanner to you. your only obligation while you pretty much leasing that scanner from us is that you would send to us minimum of $1,000 of work. This could be on removable prosthesis. This could be on fixed prosthesis like crowns and bridges, or all on X. We do everything in here. We can provide you a scanner, and you pretty much can go ahead and start using the digital workflow to improve the profit and quality of your removable prosthesis. If you need some extra information, our website, it's a load of essential information. I have some other labs told me, I was in Chicago show, even though we don't use you guys, we don't outsource to you, but we use your lab for the information. We work extremely close with many dental offices and clinics to test all of those materials, and whatever is working in those clinics, that's what we're promoting in our lab, and that's what we're promoting to you. So please give us a call if you have more information. Any personnel will be able to help you with any questions. Well, that's pretty much it. Good luck in your practice and make money.